Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out. This is episode number 64. Hope you're having a great weekend so far, and thank you for tuning in, whether you're listening to it on a local radio station or online via a podcast. I appreciate your support. We have a great show planned for you this week. We're going to talk about the popularity of streaming video services like Netflix. In a moment from now, you might just be surprised at how much we're using this service. Also this hour, we're going to chat about National Cybersecurity Awareness Month and how to best protect yourself in today's day and age. We're also going to learn about an app designed to fight mortality and a lot more. That's all coming up this hour on Tech It Out. So we have all these new phrases today, like binge watching and Netflix and chill. And this all, of course, has to do with the video streaming craze, largely led by Netflix, but also Amazon Prime Video and Hulu and others. But you might just be surprised how much the average person is watching on-demand video services like Netflix. The number, in fact, might shock you. Joining us on the line to chat is Chris Brantner. He's the founder and editor-in-chief of Streaming Observer. That's an independent source for the latest developments in streaming technology. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. Now, before we talk about this Netflix-related study that you commissioned, tell us a bit about Streaming Observer.
Sure. So we've been around for about 3 years now, and we cover streaming entertainment and cord-cutting industries. So if it has to do with Netflix, we're covering that, or tutorials, for example. If you want to learn how to stream the MLB playoffs without cable, you can find that on our site. So anything related to streaming or cutting the cord and getting away from cable TV.
So it's almost like it's the third generation of content. So the first one would be accessing it on a piece of plastic. So VHS and then DVD and Blu-ray, you had to get a piece of plastic to consume content like a movie. And then after that, it was downloads, like a la carte style, where you download, 99 cents a song or, $15 a movie or what have you. And it was something that you rented or bought, but it was a one-time download. Now, with on-demand streaming, it's all out there in the cloud and you pay one lump sum. So it's like a buffet, all-you-can-eat style instead of a la carte. So what are the benefits, do you think, and the drawbacks of streaming video content?
Sure. Well, so you have your options, right? There's the traditional cable TV model where you're watching, this week one show and you have to wait till next week for the next episode of the show. And that's just kind of an outdated format. I mean, most people are DVRing shows anyways and waiting and watching them whenever they have a chance, right? So rather than that, if you're paying a subscription for Netflix, I mean, they're dropping entire seasons of shows all at once. And you can sit and you can watch to your heart's content, right? It's more about convenience. There are just a lot of options out there, and it's not just Netflix, like you said. There's Amazon Prime. A lot of people don't even realize they're paying for Prime for their 2-day shipping, and really they have access to a pretty in-depth library of on-demand videos there. So on top of that, there's all these services, and they don't have contracts, right? So you can subscribe to Netflix for a month, cancel, and the next month subscribe to Hulu for a month, cancel, and so on. Whereas when you're subscribing to cable, you're paying for a year or two, and if you want to get out of that contract, you can't. So a lot of benefits there as far as flexibility, as far as being able to move the pieces around. There's also, within the last couple of years, there's not just the on-demand streaming services, but there are all of these live streaming services that are coming out of the woodwork. And that's giving consumers even more options for watching live sports and things like that. You can subscribe to like Sling TV, for example, for $25 a month. And you'll have Fox Sports and you can watch NFL, watch NBA, all of that live. And again, you have access to these channels, but it's on a month-to-month basis. So still you have that flexibility. I would say the drawbacks would be there are so many of these streaming services that have different deals with different content providers. So for the average consumer, it might be difficult to find the content that they're looking for and not sure which streaming service to use. And that's kind of where Streaming Observer comes in, actually, is we provide guides for people to find that content and match them up with whatever services work best for their needs.
Right. Another downside, I guess, is that you need data to stream. So you need to have a healthy Wi-Fi plan or a cellular plan to consume all this content, right? And I guess one downside for advertisers is that most of these services do not have advertising, which is good for the consumer. But if you are a business that wants to get in front of a viewer and you want to sponsor, say, Stranger Things on Netflix, you can't.
Sure. Well, and that's one of the ways that these live streaming services like Sling and Hulu has a live service now. There's DirecTV now. They're starting to sell advertising as well. And I think the hope there is through these newer digital streaming services that they'll be able to better target advertising and hopefully provide a better bang for an advertiser's buck that way. I don't know how good it is at that point. I would argue that it's not that good, but eventually, I mean, they're collecting data on us all the time. So I guess that could be a drawback too, right? All of these streaming services are collecting data on you as you use them. So it's like anything else online, we're giving up a bit of privacy for convenience.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty much anonymous. I mean, if I get an email that says, Mark, we noticed that you watched such and such show on Netflix, you may like this. That's benefiting me as well. And again, Netflix says that, they know that, 1,120 people watched a show that was not successful, but they don't know drilling it down, or at least they don't publicly disclose who it was that watched that show. So I hear you. Sure. And sure, it's still a legitimate concern, privacy and security in the digital age. But I think a lot of that data, while beneficial to them, is also curating content for us as well.
And you could also argue that they're going to put that data to good use and hopefully creating better content, because they're spending billions of dollars on creating their own content at this point. So I would assume they're going to use that data to tailor, their content.
All right. So with that in mind, you recently published a survey, or a study rather, that looked at how much time Netflix subscribers spend streaming. What did you find?
Sure. So at the end of last year, the company announced that their users streamed total 104 million hours of content per day on average. So at the time, there were about 118 million subscribers. So we did the math, dividing it all out. And so that told us that the average Netflix subscriber is streaming an hour and 11 minutes each day. That's on an average day. Of course, weekends, probably a little more, maybe on weeknights, a little less. But the interesting thing there is an hour and 11 minutes, that may or may not sound like a lot of time to you, but we tried to put that into perspective. So we were looking at some recent studies and surveys like the American Time Use Survey from the Bureau of Labor. And so we just kind of compared, how much time do people spend on other things throughout the day? What we discovered is they spend a lot more time on Netflix than any other single activity. For example, we looked at the average time spent with family members as far as quality time device-free. On average in the United States, that's 36 minutes a day. So if you think of that, you're spending probably double the amount of time watching Netflix that you are quality time with your kids or your wife or husband or whatever. Facebook, we spend on average 27 minutes a day on Facebook. And that's still way less than we spend on Netflix. And you look at exercise and reading, you go down to 17, 16 minutes, and the numbers are kind of dismal there.
So with this in mind, that the average American spends 71 minutes a day watching Netflix, and that is exactly twice the amount of time, 35 and a half minutes spent together as a family undistracted. So that is disappointing. So was this a surprise to you at Streaming Observer, and what would the takeaways be from this study?
No, not really. I mean, you can go out to eat and look around and see people on their tablets and phones and sometimes watching shows. Even the time when we're supposed to be spending together, a lot of us don't, right? it's hard. It's hard to pull away from our devices. It's hard to pull away from all of that content right at your fingertips, right? So as far as takeaways, I don't know. I guess there's the question of how much more, as Netflix is spending more and more on content, how much more time in the day is there for us to watch? I don't really know how much more they could possibly expand, but...
And as long as they keep creating great content or picking up great content like Black Mirror, they've got me hooked. All right, Chris.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, right? Have you watched that show? So good.
Yeah. I've only actually watched the newest season, and it's pretty intense for sure.
You got to check out the first 3 seasons as well. It's also on Netflix.
I'll have to go back.
Awesome. More time for binge watching. Chris Brentner, founder and editor-in-chief from Streaming Observer, streamingobserver.com, correct?
Yep, that's right.
All right, Chris, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Before we continue on with the show, a quick shout out to my sponsor. Tech It Out is powered by ASUS. ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. For those in search of incredible, visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. We'll be right back when we catch up with We Are Stars, a new app and website designed to fight mortality. We'll be right back on Tech It Out. Stay with us.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out on the Radio America Network. Our lives are made up of millions of moments, some more meaningful than others, of course, and some positive, some painful. And this is what makes us, well, human. And a new app called We Are Stars is looking to celebrate these milestones in our lives on a device that you always have with you and wrapped up in a beautiful presentation. To explain what We Are Stars is all about, we have its founder on the line, Dave Golikoff. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Now, on the website, it says that We Are Stars is, and I quote, a movement to save the moments of our lives, end quote. Can you elaborate about saving those moments?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, the first reason why I built this is that we live life in the fast lane these days. We really blaze through life. And the way that I word it is that we live for these destinations. You know, you can't wait to graduate high school to get to college. You can't wait to graduate college to get to university. Can't wait to get the first job. Can't wait to get the, wife and house and settle down, and can't wait to retire. And the reality is that life is what happens in between all of those moments. And as Ferris Bueller so eloquently puts it, life moves pretty fast. And if you don't stop to look around once in a while, you could miss it. And that's how we live. And, I shouldn't even say we. I say this is how I lived. And I really needed to create a space where I could see, things like my birthdays, the New Year's, these, holidays. These are things that are big in our lives every year. And then when you start to look back and think, how many birthdays do I actually remember? How many, where was I for New Year's 3 years ago? We don't really have a place for that. So I personally needed this, and that was the first reason why I built this.
So you did a great job in explaining what We Are Stars is on a philosophical level. Let's now chat about what it is exactly that the app does and what you can access.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the website, you see your whole life on one page. I guess the website or the app, you see your whole life on one page. You can input memories. You can input moments, being photos, being videos, recipes, childhood, things. And it's essentially a digital calendar. And as you add moments, you can either add things to today and, then you don't change the date, or you can add things to, previous dates, like say September 1st, 1999. And when you do that, a star is created on that grid to denote that you have saved something there. And so when you add things, you can also add keywords like birthdays or travel or career, so that later you can filter your sky to find just those moments, the birthdays, the travel moments. You can also filter by relationships and see the lifespan of a relationship with a person. For example, I look at my mom to see all the moments from when I was 1 month old and she was raising me to now, as adults, us traveling together. So it's a digital space where you can see your whole life on one page, save your moments, and go through them and see them easily. That was really important to me.
Right. We're chatting with Dave Golikoff. He is the founder of a new site and app called We Are Stars. And I agree with you. Calling it like a digital calendar doesn't do it justice. It's really wrapped up in this beautiful astral presentation with stars. But you do see dates and you see by years. And as you tap or click, it does zoom in. And then it's a nice graceful way of chronicling all of these big moments in your life. Are you the only one who's able to add to your own what do you call it, your own stars or your own calendar, or could you, with a partner or a sibling or a parent, can they also contribute to it?
So what happens is you have your own sky, and you have 3 different types of stars that you can add right now. So one is a public moment, which are the sort of bluish stars. White would be a private moment, which you can only see when you're logged in. And some of the fun uses of that are, I have a friend who dates on Tinder a lot, and she has all these wacky stories, these funny stories of people she's dated, and wacky first dates. So she saves these moments privately. It's just funny inside jokes and stuff. So you have public, you have private, and then you asked about the sharing aspect. So what happens is if I post something, let's say I go to a show with my girlfriend and we take a selfie there, if I post it and I tag her, then the star appears on her sky on the same date and date as well. And so you can share things publicly or privately. So, if you're at that bachelor party where you want to save, 10 guys walking into a Las Vegas pool with a wrestling belt, but you don't want everybody to know that, you can still tag everyone privately, and the star will appear on their sky on the same day and date. But whoever posts it, if they list it as private, it's private for everyone. So that's the sharing component to this.
Yeah, very cool. We're going to continue our chat with Dave from We Are Stars in a couple of moments from now. I have some additional questions tied to the sharing element of this. So again, We Are Stars is an app and a website that lets you map out all of these memories, whether you want to write it in like a diary, or it's a photo, a video clip, an audio clip, and some more coming up in the near future, as we're going to learn when we return on Tech It Out. But this is a weekly show that is designed to not just celebrate technology, but also to help demystify it. So if you need someone to break down geek speak into street speak, I hope you find that each and every week here on the program. If you have any suggestions on upcoming topics or guests that you'd like to hear on Tech It Out, I'm all ears. I'm on Twitter. You can hit me up at Mark_Saltzman. That's Mark with a C _ SALTZMAN, or send me an email privately if you prefer at www.marksaltzman.com. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out, everyone. We're chatting about a new and free app and website called We Are Stars. On the line, we've got its founder, Dave Golikoff. Now, before the break, Dave, we were talking about the point of this app, why you created it, and it was related to this epiphany about your mortality. As you said earlier, if one of the reasons why you created We Are Stars is because life just moves so fast, and if we don't stop and take a breath and appreciate it, it's just going to be gone before we know it. So I guess part of the application of We Are Stars is to look back and to appreciate these moments, be they small or big ones, as well as sharing them. Almost like when we're no longer here, does We Are Stars, does your star or sky, does that live on for others to appreciate?
Yeah, absolutely. So the third reason why I built this is exactly that. 100 years from now, Mark, I'm probably not going to be around. Unless you know of some kind of tech invention, please let me know. But I'm likely not going to be around. And I don't want to be a dusty, crusty photo stuck in a photo album in an attic somewhere. Right. I want my grandkids or their grandkids, when they ask about me and who I was, to have a cool way to see my life, to see, who I was, the jobs that I did, the places that I traveled, the things that made me laugh, the mark that I made on this planet while I was here. And so that is the third reason. It's to leave a legacy behind.
Yeah, it's a great point. With that in mind, are these moments saved locally on your devices? And if not, if it's in the cloud, so you can access it on a phone, a tablet, a laptop, and so on, what happens after Dave Golikoff is no longer around, or the company We Are Stars is not around? Because if that, then it would be gone if it's not paid for that cloud storage, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, this is still very early in the process, although we do have a decent user base so far. But yeah, I mean, these are things that we're still working out. But I mean, my goal is for this to live forever. So there's going to be company funds set aside to pay for this. It's just like a company. I don't know, think of a company like a department store or whoever, where the founder is no longer around, but, there's still a company and a mandate to run things the way that it is, the way that it was supposed to be. So that's the idea, is that this is meant to live on. I find that I see that a lot of people love like the 23andMe and stuff and Ancestry.com, where you swab your tongue and send in, what is it, a toothpick or a Q-tip, and they 3 weeks later or 3 months later, they tell you that you're, 1/3 Viking.
Yeah, usually you spit in a tube, but that's the idea. It's your saliva, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And they tell you that your great grandfather was Portuguese and somebody else was native, and, you're 1/3 Viking. Imagine, to me, for me, this has more value. If my grandkids could see this, it's not just this is your DNA and who you were. This is an actual record of who I was and what I did. And so that's the difference here. So, yeah, this is meant to live on for sure.
And you choose what that canvas looks like. As you mentioned, it could be text, it could be photos, it can be video, could it be an audio recording, for example?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool uses so far. So one person puts a star on her wedding day, and then she's uploaded her wedding video to YouTube. So, I don't know if you ever watched a wedding video, but it's always an ordeal. It's like, well, it's in VHS. Well, we don't have a VCR anymore. What about DVD? Let me plug it in. It's a whole thing. So now she has a star on her wedding date. She knows exactly, obviously she knows exactly when that is, and she pushes play right from there. And so, yeah, eventually you're going to be able to put in Spotify playlists and, more, audio and recordings. You leave messages to yourself if you want, messages for people in the future if you want. But yeah, it's audio, video, text. Those are the things right now.
All right. And then finally, how much does We Are Stars cost, and how do we get going to create our own sky?
Yeah, so it's absolutely free, and really, my goal is to teach people about happiness, and we kind of touched on it. That if you blaze through life, what happens? You forget a lot of these things. That's how I used to live, and I used to be this person that constantly focused on what was missing in my life. That I would compare myself to others, as we all do, or you open up social media, Instagram, and you see people traveling somewhere. People getting jacked in the gym, and you tell yourself that you're not good enough, or you turn on the TV and you see a new car commercial and you have a perfectly normal car, but that's telling you to get something better. I used to be this person who constantly compared myself to others and really felt like I was never enough. And so I created this so that I could have a space where I could really see the moments of my life and really appreciate what I have done. And so that's really why this is free.
Awesome. And then how do we get going? Is there a website or an app that you'd recommend to start?
Yeah, so you just go to wearestars.com, www.wearstars, so kind of like Toys R Us. It's not A-R-E, it's just the R. Or you can go into the App Store, either in Apple or on Android, and download the app. It's completely free to use. And yeah, save 5 or 10 things, your childhood homes, your high school photos, whatever you like, and you'll see why this is so useful. useful. It's really a breeding ground for happiness and appreciating what you do have in your life.
And I appreciate you giving us some time to explain what We Are Stars is all about, Dave. Thank you. Again, it's We, the letter R, Stars. You can search for it at your app store or just go to the website, We Are Stars. Thank you so much again. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
What do you think about We Are Stars? Maybe you've used it. Maybe you're intrigued at the idea. Maybe you think it's not for you. I'd love to hear your feedback. You can hit me up at marksaltzman.com. That's Mark with a C, SALTZMAN. Before we continue on with the program, and we do have another great guest coming up in a few moments from now, another shout out to my sponsor. Tech It Out is brought to you by ASUS, creating technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. ASUS, for those in search of incredible. Visit asus.com/US/radio for more info on their products like their ZenBook line of laptops, their ROG or Republic of Gamer brand of computers and accessories, and a lot more. It's all at asus.com, ASUS.com/US/radio. Well, we will be back in a few moments when we chat about National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It is in October. So we're going to talk about 3 simple ways to remain protected in the digital age, even if you are far from being tech savvy. We're going to have a great guest on in a few moments from now, so stay with us. You are listening to Tech It Out on the Radio America Network. We'll be right back.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. Not a day goes by that we don't hear about yet another cybersecurity threat, like a data breach, a nasty virus, a phishing scam, or ransomware that can hold your files hostage until you pay up. So what better time to talk about these 21st century issues and how to best combat them than during National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which just began October 1st. Joining us on the line to chat is Russ Schrader. He is the Executive Director of the National Cybersecurity Alliance. Welcome to the show, Russ.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Talk to us about National Cybersecurity Alliance and what you do, and then we'll dive into some of those risks and solutions today.
Sure, absolutely. We're the national leader as a nonpartisan, nonprofit devoted to cybersecurity throughout the United States. For this particular month, we partner with the Department of Homeland Security as well as a bunch of our board members to come up with ways to keep the nation safer. And part of what we're doing this month is talking on 4 basic themes. We're talking about home, we're talking about work, we're talking about workforce, and we're talking about critical infrastructure. And this being the first one, we're talking about homes this week in particular, and what we each can do. We've pretty much found, Mark, that our online and offline selves are indistinguishable. We wake up and look at the phone. We look at the phone last thing at meals. It's just become an extension of who we are. And we're trying to help people be safer this week in particular in their family and in their homes online.
Okay, so we're not chatting business today. We're not chatting infrastructure or government or what have you. We're talking about just regular consumers who use technology on a daily basis. We're all connected online. We're all on the grid, and how we can best protect ourselves from this seemingly growing number of threats out there. What I think is intimidating for a lot of people, Russ, is that even if a tech-savvy IT person can't keep the bad guys out, from a big company, how is a non-tech savvy person supposed to stay ahead of the game?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I tell people is it's like that old joke. The 2 campers are there, and the bear is attacking them, and the one guy is running, lacing up his shoes, and his friend says, "What are you doing? You can't outrun the bear." And he says, "No, I just have to outrun you." So you take it, and part of it is that, yes, you can't outrun, the crooks. These guys are very sophisticated. They're well-financed. They work at this 24/7, trying to hack into the vulnerabilities of companies all over the world. And, at a certain point, you're right. what can the average person do? Well, you can't do everything. You don't have the resources, but you try to do what you can to make yourself safer, and you use the resources and tools that you have. And a lot of them, we try to make them simple, and we try to make them actionable that people can do to make themselves safer. Is it 100%? Nothing in life is. But we do try to make it harder for them and to make it less likely that they'll be a victim except of the most sophisticated attack.
So it seems, Russ, that protection falls into two camps, and correct me if I'm wrong here. One is education and common sense, right? Then the other one are the tools that you mentioned. It could be software or hardware that can serve as an extra layer of defense from the bad guys. So with the former, what are some of the tips you can recommend on not falling victim to a cyber attack?
Right. When you get to the common sense, which people, argue isn't necessarily all that common, if you get something from Nigerian prince or wherever promising you millions of dollars, chances are it's not real.
Right.
Now, if you get, so don't open it. That could be malware, it could be, ransomware. Don't open it. Put it into the trash without opening it.
And just to clarify, malware is short for malicious software, so that could be viruses and other concerns. And then ransomware is, as I mentioned earlier, where your computer or other device is locked down by the bad guys remotely, and they demand a ransom in order to unlock those files for you. So yes, please continue. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
Right. Sure, but then when you get the other part where you get something where someone has hacked into an email, and it looks like you're getting an email from a friend, and this was very trendy a while ago, where it's a name that you recognize, but it says, "Hi, I'm on vacation in such and such a place. Horrible things have happened to me. I have medical bills, blah, blah, blah. Could you please wire me some money? I'll pay you back as soon as I get there. You and I have been great friends." And you really will look at it and say, "Oh, my God, that's so horrible that this happened to my friend." And it looks like it's from them,
right.
But it's really their email has been hacked. Once again, drag it into trash. So that's kind of the common sense part of the when in doubt, throw it out.
Right. They always say the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain is the people. It's social engineering, where regular people, even smart people and not naive folks, are duped into believing an email or a text message is legitimate when in fact it's phony. It's not real.
Right. That's exactly right.
So let's talk about these tools now, such as software. Would that be like anti-malware or antivirus software?
Well, definitely antivirus and anti-malware software, and a lot of that is out there, and people have that. But there's also what we call, keep a clean machine.
And I'm going to ask you to talk about that when we return. Apologies for cutting you off, but we do have to take a short break. When we return, we're going to talk more about Cybersecurity Awareness Month and what does keeping a clean machine mean exactly. And there's two other main tips that I know that you want to share. So stay with us. We're going to, in plain English, cover what you need to know to protect yourself from the various cyber threats out there that you may or may not know about. Stay with us. We'll be right back on the Tech It Out radio program.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
We are chatting with Russ Schrader. He is the Executive Director of the National Cybersecurity Alliance, and we're talking about Cybersecurity Awareness Month, October. And before the break, Russ, you were talking about ways to protect yourself, and one of them was about keeping a clean machine.
You get these updates, and software updates are being pushed to you by your operating system manager, whether it's Microsoft or whether it's Apple, with iOS 12. And you also, and your apps often come with updates with bug fixes and malware and things like that. And really, you have a lot of smart people at these companies doing things to make the product safer, and they can push them up to your front door, but if you don't download them, it's as if they never existed. So you really have to figure out how to keep a clean machine, how to download these kinds of updates and patches.
Right.
It's not sexy. Sometimes it can take a few minutes, whether you do it, at night, so it updates overnight or something like that. That's important. But you also need to figure out, besides that, what you have on your smartphone, these little quizzes, which house in Hogwarts would you go to? Which, what would be your royal name if you were to marry Prince Harry? Going back even to the ancient history of are you a Carrie or a Miranda in Sex and the City, or which Golden Girl, reaching out to which Golden Girls are you? These kind of quizzes, they were fun. Maybe you had a few beers and you shared them with your friends, and that was it. But they're sitting on your phone. And they've been collecting and sharing information about you for years. You haven't looked at them. You know which house in Hogwarts you would go to. You know which character you resemble. Well, delete them. Delete them. Keep a clean machine. Don't just have the stuff on your phone or on your app or on your computer, because you never know where that kind of hacking is going to come from. So that's the second one after, when in doubt, throw it out.
We're chatting with Russ Schrader. He is the executive director of the National Cybersecurity Alliance. His organization and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security co-lead NC-SAM. This is a massive collaborative effort to ensure that every American has the resources they need to stay safer and more secure in the digital age. Let's now go to your third tip or tool.
Yeah, sure, Mark. And that was we call it lock down your login. Chances are your password is not a password. You have dozens of them. You may have 100 different passwords. And you try to figure out how to make them easy and memorable. So your password is password or let me in or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And deep down inside, that's wrong. So what we're trying to get you to do is think about what the passwords are for. Have ones that are really tricky for the important ones, like for your financial information, for online banking, for your health information, for your kids' information. And the other ones, get a password manager, for example. There's a few in there you can search password managers, and they will make tricky passwords for you. If you're an Apple kind of guy, it may suggest, a password for you that's really tricky. And that way you don't have to remember them. It's stored in a place where you can access it, and you only have to remember one password. The other thing, part of lock down your login is to do two-factor authentication, that where you get that little 4-digit one-time code that pops up on your phone with a ding, and you punch it in to authenticate you before you can do a financial transaction. That also makes it harder, but not impossible, to hack into. So there are things like that will help you with your passwords, help you with one-time codes that will help lock down your login. So if you're locking down your login, you're keeping a clean machine, and when in doubt, throw it out, that really helps your shared responsibility as a consumer, as a mom, a dad, as an employee, to help with keeping your family, your workplace, and frankly, our country safer.
Russ Schrader, thank you so much for the great advice and breaking it down for us in plain English. Greatly appreciated. Not an easy thing to do. So thank you so much again. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you, Mark.
I enjoyed that chat. I thought he did a good job explaining it in plain English, which is what I try to do on Tech It Out each and every week. If you are enjoying the show, please feel free to tell a friend, family member, a colleague, recommend the podcast that they could access on demand and subscribe to. I link to all of the podcast platforms from my website, marksaltzman.com. That includes iTunes and TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Blog Talk, Spreaker, and many others. So thank you again for your support. And thank you, speaking of support, thank you to ASUS, creating technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. ASUS, for those in search of incredible, asus.com/US/radio has info on all their awesome products. Have a great rest of your weekend, everyone. We'll catch up with you next time on Tech It Out. Ciao for now.